Welcome to Utility Sports, where in today's video, we're going to be talking about the 2022 NBA Draft. And as you can see on the graphic on the screen, this is my first big board for the 2022 NBA Draft. I spent a ton of time watching these draft prospects, watching college games, watching games from the NBL and other leagues as well. So there's a lot to unpack in this video, and there's also some other things we have to get into before we get to my actual big board. First of all, leave a like on today's video if you do want more content like this in the future, and also subscribe if you are new to Utility Sports. Everything you need to know about the NBA Draft you can find out here on this channel, so make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on the notification bell, and without further ado, let's jump into some of the important notes for this video. This is version 1. A lot can change. What I mean by that is the day I'm recording this, there's a lot that can happen within the next week. For example, TyTy Washington, the last 2 weeks of the season here, he's been absolutely phenomenal. And that would push a guy up my big board. If he's playing super well as of late, things can change. So for that being said, I am recording this near the middle of January, January 14th to be exact. So a lot can change after that. So make sure you guys don't overreact to something in the video, especially if something happens on January 17th or January 25th or something like that, where a guy has a great game. Obviously, I'm going to take that into account as we go throughout this process. This is just a V1. This is not the order I think they will get drafted in either. This is not a mock draft. This is a big board. What a big board is the ranking of which you think players are going to be good in the NBA or not. For example, I have a few guys in the top 4 that are really hard to rank because I think they could all be really great in the NBA. So I'm not ranking based on the order I think they're going to get drafted or where they'll end up going in the NBA draft, but how I think of them as players, my overall rankings for these players. And then I also want to point out that this kind of goes with that first note. I believe some freshman players are going to jump higher than they are currently in this video, just because when you look at freshmen, they usually struggle a little bit at the start of the year, find their footing near the end of the year, and show some real flashes that NBA GMs, NBA executives want to see. The generational players are the freshmen who come in right away and are beasts. But I think there's a lot of freshmen right now that are due to jump up as the season carries on. So take that into account as well when you're considering commenting on this video. I think that some freshman players are going to end up moving up my big board as they show a little bit more throughout the season. But this is based on what I've seen so far this year. Moving into the first player here, and you're going to notice I started at 26. I had intentions to do 25. But I wanted to include this guy, and he found himself 26th on my board. That's Montero. He's playing for Overtime Elite.
We're going to see good ball movement.
Ernest just that shot.
Oh, good dog.
Oh, my goodness.
And he's got a lot of really good skills. He's really good with the basketball in his hands, makes good decisions, and has really shown an ability to make phenomenal passes on the move, finding cutters, finding shooters on the perimeter. Now, one concern I have is Overtime Elite. The help side defense is rather questionable. It doesn't look as organized as, say, college basketball, the NBL, or even the Euro League. And I think that, maybe Montero's coasting a little here. I don't know what his defense really is going to translate to, because right now I think he's a purely offensive player. And he does show some really good flashes offensively. But I do have some concerns about what happens when he gets into a better a situation that's a little bit tougher in terms of there's more defense around him, more length around him, and there's a lot more going on in terms of the help side. Is he going to be a little bit more turnover prone? Is some of his decision making going to get a little bit tougher at the next level? That's what I have concerns about, but I think he's a very intriguing player for Overtime Elite. Moving into 25 here now, I've got Patrick Baldwin Jr. out of Milwaukee.
Down in the paint, but Coach White has done a fantastic job with the backdoor cuts.
Now, I think this is going to be one of the more controversial ones on this video, because I think a lot of people are really going to like Patrick Baldwin. I'm just not in love with it. He's a one dribble max type player to me. I don't think he really has enough creation skills. I know he's flashed a little bit at Milwaukee, but remember, that's against much lower competition. And I do have concerns about that. I think he's going to be a really good floor spacer. He's pretty tall, I believe 6'9" or 6'10", and he can shoot the basketball. He's got good skills that are going to be very important for off-the-ball play in the NBA. But I don't think he's a very good defensive player. I think he plays a little soft, and he doesn't put the ball on the deck much. Watching him, anyone who watched any U19 World Cup play this past year knows he came off the bench for Team USA and didn't play a big role off the bench either. He was a floor spacer, didn't really take advantage of any matchups, didn't really take control of any games. He's doing that a little bit more now for Milwaukee, but like I said, again, much lower competition. That U19 tournament, I think, was enough to keep him out of my top 15 all year long. From what I saw on him, I'm hoping he picks up some of his play. He's shown a lot better skill set at Milwaukee than what he displayed for the World Cup. But I do have some concerns still for him, his ability to handle the ball really being the biggest one for me. Moving into 24 here, got Julian Strawther out of Gonzaga.
Holmgren driving on to Banchero, can't get a shot off. Strawther can, and hits.
He's a nice little story here. Last year as a freshman, did not start any games. And this year he's been a huge piece to what Gonzaga's been. He's always just in the right place at the right time. Not a great shooter, and it's tough to come into the role of Corey Kispert and not be the best shooter in the world, because Kispert, of course, was a flamethrower last year from 3 for Gonzaga. Strawther, not quite like that, but he does have more capabilities of scoring on the move, has a nice little runner to him, comfortable in the mid-range area, good working his way into the paint as a scorer. And like I said, he just finds himself in the right place at the right time all the time, which is a really attractive trait when you're looking at players who could be glue guys on teams. I think he fits really, really well off the ball in the NBA. I think he's going to be a competitive defender, pretty solid size and length, and he's going to do a lot of the little things. Kind of reminds me a little bit of a Jeff Green, and I think what Josh Green's becoming for the Dallas Mavericks a little bit is what I kind of see from Julian Strawther. I think there's some decent upside there for him. Showed real improvement from his freshman to sophomore season. That's something you always like to see. If you're going to see a sophomore player go in the first round, it's usually because they had a nice jump from their freshman to sophomore campaigns, and Julian Strawther is a really good example of that this year for Gonzaga. 23, we've got Jamarion Sharp, sophomore from Western Kentucky.
Thought about the three, did hit one earlier. Takes it all the way to the rack.
And boy, is this guy tall. He's 7'5". He's pretty light though, and he moves his feet actually surprisingly well at the collegiate level. He's able to stay in plays, and his length and size really do help him. Back in high school, I believe he was about 6'7", 6'8", and then had a massive growth spurt coming into college. He's averaging about 5 blocks a game right now, and he's going to be a really, really good rim protector at the NBA level, especially when you consider what he could look like in a matchup zone where he's underneath and you kind of funnel guys into him. I think he's going to get a ton of blocks in his career. Offensively, he's got a lot of limitations, though. He plays a little softer on the rim. He's very light, like I said, so I don't think he's going to be a real post-up option, and currently does not shoot the basketball at all. Shooting 44% from the free throw line, I believe, and I believe he shot 0 3-pointers this year. Jamarion Sharp did spend some time at John A. Logan, which is a JUCO. That's the same one that Jaden Scrubb played for those who do know who Jay Scrubb is. And then he ended up moving into Western Kentucky, which is his dream school. He is a Kentucky native, and I think there is a lot of upside here for him defensively. He's going to have to work on his game offensively, though, to have a real role in the NBA. But I think right now just his size and length is enough to be an attractive trait for NBA teams, especially when you consider how productive he can be defensively. I think he would be a nice little defensive weapon for a team looking for some rim protection. Let's be honest, NBA defense, it's all about ball pressure, cutting off drives to the middle, and rim protection. It's all about protecting the basket. You see a lot of the best teams in the NBA actually give up the most threes because they're trying to get solid contests on three-pointers. They're just trying not to give up a lot of looks at the rim, and Jamarion Sharp's really going to help you with that. 22 now here. We've got Isaiah Mobley, a junior out of USC.
Agbonkolo turns it down this time. Spots Mobley. Knockdown.
Isaiah Mobley, to me, is someone who could be a very attractive pickup. And I know I'm going to be much higher on this kid than everyone else because he's got solid size. He's 6'10". He's going to play that 4-man position most likely, but he's got a phenomenal wingspan at 7'3", and he's got some solid skills as well. Surprisingly, can handle the rock a little bit. He's a solid passer. And the biggest thing is he can stretch the floor. He can really shoot the basketball. Last 2 seasons, as a sophomore, he shot 43%. And now as a junior, he's shooting 46% from 3. This kid is strapped up. He can shoot the 3 ball. And I think there's going to be a lot of suitors for him, Probably goes in round 2, but I would take him probably near the end of the first round, honestly, because just looking at what he can bring, he's going to be a really nice fit onto certain rosters. He offers size, length, and the ability to shoot the basketball. He's Patrick Baldwin, but a little bit more fluid, a little bit more smooth, and I think better defensively. I think there's a lot to work with there for an NBA team. Now, I don't think his upsides may be as high as a guy like Patrick Baldwin, but I think his floor is much higher. And I do really like that when you consider how he could fit into an NBA roster, an NBA system. And I think NBA teams, they need to stop shying away from just good college players. There's certain guys who can come into the league and really leave their impact. Look at Jalen Brunson from Villanova. The fact that he was a second-round pick is ridiculous. This offseason, he's probably going to get paid around 4 years, $80 million. And teams didn't want him in round 1 because his upside wasn't huge. Okay, he was a good player coming in already. You don't have to worry about upside when you're drafting a really good player. And I think Isaiah Mobley is a really good player. He's playing for USC this year. They're top 10 in the nation currently. And he's a big reason why. Moving into 21, we got Trevor Keels here, freshman out of Duke.
Backs up for 3. That won't drop for him. Keels, tough angle, but he lays it in. That's a quick strike.
And Keels is someone who's interesting to me because when you look at him, there's not anything specifically that flashes to you. I think he's a really well-rounded player. He's shown ability to spot up, have his hands ready, able to hit the 3 ball when open. And he's also got some capabilities to be a nice two-way wing with his size. He's really strong. Just look at him on the screen now. Really, really big, strong player. And he's also going to be able to work downhill a little bit, get to the rim, finish through contact, and also work into the mid-range area. I'd like to see that a little bit more from him down the stretch of the season, working into that mid-range. But Trevor Keels, I think as an off-ball player, does have a pretty solid role in the NBA. When you consider size, strength, and ability to play off the basketball, Trevor Keels is going to be a very valuable pickup for an NBA team. Number 20 now here, I've got Jaden Davison out of Alabama, and this one's surprising to me and maybe surprising to a lot of you guys out there as well.
Feels like 2 big misses, doesn't it not?
Empty trip for Auburn. Davison, look out! Oh, Jaden Davison!
Because I do really like Jaden Davison. I really, really was excited about him coming in. He's been the 6th man this year for the Alabama Crimson Tide. And for me, I do have a couple concerns, especially about what he looks like in the half court when he's not in the pick and roll. I don't necessarily know if he's a high impact player yet in normal offensive sets and when he's not operating a screen and roll. For me, I think he has to be better. As a shooter, I think he's got to show strides going into this offseason during his pro days. I think he's going to have to shoot the ball really, really well to become a lottery pick. Just based off what I've seen so far, defensively, he's got some limitations. I know he's an athlete, can jump out of the gym, really can put people on posters. That's what you get excited about, is what he could look like in transition and what he actually does look like when he's getting downhill after operating in the pick and roll. His poster over Walker Kessler against Auburn was massive and huge, and he got a lot of national recognition for that. But I think there's some holes to his game yet holistically that he needs to address to become a top 14 pick in this year's draft. Number 19 now, we got Trayce Jackson-Davis, a junior from Indiana.
The shimmy shake, both of them.
For me, Trayce Jackson-Davis is a really intriguing player because I actually see him playing some small ball 5 once we get to the NBA. He's got really good speed. He can run the floor very well, and he's an athlete. He can jump out of the gym. He's going to be a nice weak side rim protector. Now, I don't think he's the normal type of rim protector where you see him anchoring a defense and chesting guys up when they get to the rim. But I think he's going to come over, get weak side blocks, and start some transition opportunities for whatever team drafts him. For me, the team that always stands out when I'm thinking about Trayce Jackson-Davis is the Golden State Warriors. How phenomenal he would be playing next to Draymond Green, sitting in that dunker spot. And another thing about Trayce Jackson-Davis is he's shown a willingness to not stop the basketball. He's Indiana's best player, but he doesn't hold on to it like he is. He is very, very willing to pass out of the post. And he's not a selfish player at all. He's just trying to win games. He had a huge performance over Ohio State when they knocked off the Buckeyes and EJ Liddell. And I think Trayce Jackson-Davis is going to be a really, really nice player in the NBA, especially when you consider if you get him in the right role where he's playing that small ball 5, maybe a little bit of rim running 4 next to a floor spacing 5. He could be a really nice pickup because of some of his athleticism and some of the things he can do. One quick note about him, though, he's not a shooter at all. Has very reluctantly ever shot the ball at Indiana. I believe he's for his career, shooting 0.1 attempts a game. So he just doesn't shoot the basketball from 3. But that's okay. You don't necessarily need every single player on your roster to be a shooter. As long as you have enough shooting around them, which is why I highlighted Golden State, Trayce Jackson-Davis could be a really nice pickup for an NBA team. I see him probably going in the back end of the first round, probably around pick 25 to 30, but I have him 19th on my board. Number 18 here, I got Max Christie, and I think this is the epitome of a guy who's going to rise up boards as a freshman later into the season. Max Christie, a 6'5" guard for Michigan State, and he's showing some really, really nice skills this year.
Top of the key, Christie pump fakes the 3. Mid-range
for the Spartans, specifically working off the ball. He always has his hands ready to catch and shoot, and he's really good off the dribble as well. 1 dribble, 2 dribble pull-ups into the mid-range area. Also very creative when it comes to curling off-ball screens, getting to the rim with ease. He makes everything look easy because of the way he operates off the ball. There's a lot of value to that, and I think he has enough on-ball skills and talent where I think that's going to be something that translates to the NBA for him as well. I think he's going to be able to take guys off the wing, take them on baseline drives, and also get into the middle with a nice little jab step, penetrate middle, rise up off after 1 dribble, and knock it down from 18 feet. He's got that kind of skill set. He's going to be a really nice pickup for me. I think he'll probably end up in the top 15 for me by the end of the year because of the trajectory he's on right now for Michigan State. He's one of the key reasons they've moved up into the top 10 this year, with Tom Izzo being their coach, obviously. And I think Max Christie, someone who has a very, very nice ceiling and also a really solid floor when you're considering NBA draft prospects. Michigan State, they have a good one here, and I think the NBA team that takes him is going to be really happy with the result. Number 17 here, we got Keegan Murray out of Iowa.
Justin Bean is on the bench with those 2 fouls. He's a little bit beat up. Great strategy by Ryan Odom.
And this is going to be probably one of those that ruffles a little bit of feathers, so I want to leave a little disclaimer here. Players like Keegan Murray at the 4-man position have always given me a little bit of trouble in my draft analysis. There's certain ones that work, and there's certain ones that don't. For example, Patrick Williams, you look at him, DeAndre Hunter, they show some similar skill sets to what Keegan Murray is, and both of those guys were 4th overall picks. When you look at other ones that don't work, I mean, some of them stand out. Michael Beasley, for example, was phenomenal at K-State, just didn't work in the NBA. The 4 position, when you have a face-up 4 who's pretty talented, does a lot of his work on the glass as well, it's 50-50 what you're going to get out of them. I think Keegan Murray's going to work in the NBA. I think it's very possible he could be a top 10 player in the class, but I think it's also possible he just doesn't work at all. I've got my concerns. Some of the easy putback layups he gets, probably not going to be at the NBA level. Playing for Iowa, he's their best player, and I don't necessarily know if I see an offense ever really running around him in the NBA. Actually, let me clarify that. I know an NBA offense won't run around him in the NBA. This year, he's averaging around 24 points a game, though. Having a really, really good sophomore campaign has shown a ton of improvement from his freshman season. I struggle evaluating and analyzing power forwards who are of similar skill sets to Keegan Murray. I was wrong about DeAndre Hunter, and I was wrong about also Patrick Williams coming out, and I have to own up to that. And that's why I'm a little hesitant here of what to say about Keegan Murray, because even though I've watched him a lot, I'm trying to evaluate his fit into the NBA, and I'm just not sold on anything yet. Either way, I don't know if he's going to be great. I don't know if he's going to be bad. Let me know in the comment section what you think about Keegan Murray. Sliding into 16 here, EJ Liddell, I think, is a little bit safer of a prospect because he's got similar skill set to Keegan Murray, but a much better defensive player.
Yeah, gotta wait, right? Nice blow by.
He's showing a lot of Swiss Army knife capabilities, averaging over 3 blocks a game right now for Ohio State. He's a little undersized to play power forward, but I think a lot of people are going to be drawing the comparison to Draymond Green when they watch this kid play. Does a lot of stuff defensively that is shocking. The way he's able to elevate, get blocks around the rim now, that's really, I think, where he's shown a lot of improvement from his freshman, sophomore seasons. I think he looks more athletic, a little bit more bouncy. I think he's in better shape. And then offensively, his skill set has really evolved with his ability to shoot the 3-ball a little bit better now. He's more capable shooting from distance, especially with a hand in his face. He's really improved in that area. And then you look at what else he's able to do now off the dribble. There's no surprise here. He's won an award, Player of the Year chase, and I think that he's a really, really nice player at 16. I don't think he goes 16th overall. I think he's probably even maybe an early 2nd round pick, like I said about Jalen Brunson. But that's going to be a phenomenal steal for a team. They need to start taking good players when they're available. EJ Liddell, to me, is an example of that. Number 15, now we got Kennedy Chandler here out of Tennessee, and it was really hard for me to leave him out of the lottery when I have him at 15 because I think he is a lottery-level player.
Chandler with the steal. Going right to the rim. Kennedy Chandler.
This class is just really, really strong in general. Very pesky guard. He's going to be a really good two-way point guard. Kind of shows similar characteristics of what Josh Richardson has been in the NBA, but I think Kennedy Chandler, a better ball handler and someone you can actually run an offense through. He's averaging over 5 assists a game to only 2 turnovers, so a pretty good assist to turnover ratio. And I think there's a lot that an NBA team can work with here with him because he's quick, athletic, can get out in transition, forces turnovers, like I said. Swing skill for him is going to be shooting the basketball. If he can learn how to shoot the basketball a little bit better, a little bit more efficiently, especially off the bounce into the mid-range area, he's going to be moving up boards even more. Really nice player for Tennessee right now. He's kind of the epitome of what they're trying to do defensively, and he makes guys work. He's going to be a dog on that end of the floor, and I love that. When it comes to draft prospects, he's a little undersized, a little bit of a finesse player, but he does bring the physicality on the defensive end. He's fast, he's smart, he can read what's happening, and I think there is a lot of value to that. Even for a freshman player, he's been very impressive. 14th, now we got Nikola Jovic here from Serbia. And this is going to make the league even more complicated when you have Nikola Jokic and Nikola Jovic. Just hopefully the Denver Nuggets don't draft Jovic because that would be mind-boggling. Jovic is an intriguing wing for me because he's shown flashes in the U19 World Cup of being able to distribute, function with the ball in his hands. He's also really good off the ball. He's going to be a dynamic slasher, can get to the rim off the baseline, attacking the middle with dribble drive penetration. And one thing about him is he's athletic. He can really read the floor. He's a guy who can throw overhand passes one-handed and put him on the spot that you need to put him on for a shooter to be successful or to hit a diver, a cutter. He just does a lot of things really, really well. Kind of typical for what we see from Serbian players that are coming into the NBA. They know how to play the game the right way with a whole bunch of different skill sets. He can shoot the ball a little bit. He can get to the rim. He's just a very well-rounded player, and I think the athleticism is really what breeds upside for him. I think I'm a little bit higher on him than others at this point. Maybe there's some more stuff for me to see yet that maybe pulls him down. But from what I've seen so far, I really like Nikola Jovic. 13th, I got TyTy Washington here.
Washington pulls up.
And he's another player who I expect to continue flying up my board a little bit because of some of the playmaking touch he's shown at Kentucky, especially as of late. Of course, started the year off scoring the basketball really well. But lately, I mean, he broke John Wall's record for assists in a game, posted 17 assists, a lot of those to Oscar Tshiebwe for Kentucky. And I think TyTy Washington has shown really, really good capabilities as a pick and roll ball handler. There's a lot to love watching this kid play. He puts the ball on time, on target, right in the shooting pocket for shooters, is able to really find roll men, dive cutters. He does it all as a facilitator, which is surprising to me because I didn't think that's necessarily what his strong suit was going to be beginning of the season. I thought he was going to be better as a scoring guard and then function as a secondary playmaker, but he's showing signs of being a primary playmaker. He's really what Kentucky's running their offense through right now. And the one thing I love about him as a scorer, he is not afraid to work the mid-range area. He shoots the ball in the mid-range area quite often. He's got a good skill set there. 1 dribble, 2 dribble pull-ups out of the pick and roll. That's lethal in the NBA, especially when you face drop coverage. That can be enough to kill teams. Honestly, when you go up against the Minnesota Timberwolves and Karl Anthony Towns is playing about 8 feet off, you have to be able to walk into that mid-range area and knock it down. And I think TyTy Washington's going to be able to do that. I think he needs to find a little bit more consistency from 3 yet at this point of his career, but I'm very confident that he can get there. When you look at his actual shot, the mechanics of his shot, I believe that he'll be a good shooter in the NBA. So I think TyTy Washington, a really good pickup for a team in the lottery. Moving into 12 here, got Carlos Alocen, which is going to be a surprising one for a lot of people. He's a Real Madrid point guard, 6'5", very, very smooth with the basketball. Carlos Alocen also played with Usman Garuba, who was a draft pick last year. So Real Madrid players do get drafted fairly well when they're, of quality players. And Carlos Alocen, with his size, his ball skills, and his ability to find others on the move, he's a phenomenal passer. And there's one thing I've learned throughout my time studying NBA drafts, putting in time studying prospects: bigger guards with ball skills generally translate fairly well to the NBA. And I think Carlos Alocen is going to be an example of that, a little bit reminiscent of Ricky Rubio. And I think that there is a lot of upside for Carlos Alocen, especially when you consider the fact that I think his jump shot is a little bit smoother than Ricky Rubio's was coming in. I think he's going to fit pretty well into an NBA roster quickly. Sliding into 11 here, I'm going with another overseas player here, Hugo Besson from the New Zealand Breakers of the NBL. For me, Hugo Besson is a phenomenal three-point shooter, arguably one of the best three-point shooters in this year's class.
Time in the three. Delaney, nothing but net at the other end.
He can function off the ball, running through screens, catching and firing, but he's also shown ability to create for himself. Hasn't really created for others yet at this point, but he's been very productive as a self-creator. He's a good shot creator, can get his shot off from three, can get his shot off in the mid-range, and actually surprisingly gets downhill pretty well. I think he's got to improve his finishing through contact. At this point, I think he's a little light, and maybe will struggle a little bit early in his career when it comes to rim protection and bigger bodies. But with his speed, quickness, and ability to get shots off on the perimeter, I think he's going to be someone who slices up defenses in the NBA, because kind of like what we see from Duncan Robinson, his ability to run off the ball and get screens and really shoot while moving, there's a lot of value to that for NBA offenses. I think Hugo Besson is an instant offense starter for an NBA team. I'm not sure exactly where he's going to land. I know a lot of people are projecting him right now as a second-round pick. I think that's crazy. I'm projecting him as a lottery pick. NBL players, when they play very well in the NBL, they come to the NBA, they're great. Jay Shante played well in the NBL. He's a really nice piece for the Houston Rockets. LaMelo Ball was really good in the NBL. He's great for the Charlotte Hornets. And then there's also Josh Giddey, who's shown a lot of signs of being a really good NBA player for the Oklahoma City Thunder as well. Hugo Besson, he's a player to watch. If you don't have him on your radar, put him on there now. 10 here, we got AJ Griffin, freshman wing out of Duke.
He's got it now out of the timeout. Passes off. Griffin hits it as.
For me, AJ Griffin, there's a real chance that he ends up being a top 5 pick in this draft. I think I would not be surprised if you told me AJ Griffin went 5th overall, because I think he's a little bit more similar to what we see from Patrick Williams specifically. He's going to be a dog on the defensive end of the floor. He can move his feet well. He's got really good size, strength. He's got an NBA-ready body, and he's going to be able to chest up guys immediately on day one. Can function as a nice gap defender and a help side guy, but he can also put him on ball and let him work on a perimeter player. I think defensively, there's a lot of upside, and he's also shown some offensive improvement already in his short time at Duke. Just made his first career start the other day against Wake Forest and put up 21 points. He's going to be efficient. He's going to be a 3-and-D wing. And I really like what AJ Griffin's going to be. Very athletic player as well. I think there's a real chance he goes 5th overall in this year's draft. I think he's going to be a top 10 pick for sure, especially when they get through pro days, see him work out, see his size, physicality in person. AJ Griffin is going to be a top 10 pick for me. I think he's going to continue going up my board. He already has moved up my board throughout the season. At the start of the year, I did not have him as a top 15 guy, just based on what I was seeing early. But recently, he's really improved. He's picked up a lot, and I think number 10 right now might even be low for him for where we'll see him by the end of the year. Number 9 here, I've got Kendall Brown, freshman out of Baylor. He's got good size on the wing. Kendall Brown, one of his biggest strengths to me is his ability to play make actually from the 3 position, because he's able to catch the ball, get downhill, and then find shooters around him.
18-year-old already with a collegiate senior's body. You look at that frame as he denies access along the baseline. Triple is good for LJ Carr.
He's going to be a solid, well-rounded player. Really reminiscent of Josh Childress with the hair, but I think a better comp for him would be someone who can pass the basketball a little bit better. Maybe a guy like Lance Stevenson. I don't necessarily know if he has the creation skills of Lance Stevenson, but when I'm talking about his playmaking capabilities, maybe Joe Ingles is a solid comp for him as well, just because I think he's going to even be able to function in the pick and roll as a ball handler a little bit. I think he can space and shoot, and there's good value here for Kendall Brown coming. He's got good size and length, like I talked about. And I think defensively, he's not going to be a great on-ball defender specifically, but I think he's going to be a well-rounded overall defender. I think he's going to be a key part to good team defense in the NBA. Coming out of Baylor, that's exactly what they do there. Very team defense-oriented system, and Kendall Brown is going to really help out an NBA team as well in that area. Moving into pick 8 now, got Jaden Hardy from G League Ignite, a 6'4" guard with real shot creation skills.
I thought he was playing at community college before being a member of Ignite and being on 2022 draft.
And for me, Jaden Hardy is an interesting player because his efficiency splits are not good currently. He does not shoot the ball super efficiently, but he takes tough shots and sometimes he knocks them down. And when you're watching him, the skill set that, is projectable for Jaden Hardy makes him a really attractive draft pick to me, especially in the top 10. I know some people are saying he's going to go outside the top 10 now. I don't buy that for a minute. He's very athletic, capable of handling the rock. And for me, somewhat reminiscent of Donovan Mitchell in terms of size and skill set. I don't think he's going to be nearly as efficient as Donovan Mitchell's been in his career. But I think Jaden Hardy's also shown a little bit of that crazy playmaking ability that Donovan Mitchell's really developed in his career. Remember, beginning of his career, Donovan Mitchell was not a great passer, and that's currently where I think Jaden Hardy's at. I don't think he's a great passer. I think he's an okay one. I think when he's forced to pass, he can put the ball where he wants to. But Donovan Mitchell is really showing strides as a playmaker, and I think Jaden Hardy, if he follows a similar development path, could be fairly similar to what Donovan Mitchell is in the NBA. I wouldn't bet on that, though. I don't think that's what he's going to be. Ultimately, I see him more as a spot scorer, someone who can come in and be a spark plug off the bench. But I think there is a lot of value here, and I think the upside is tremendous. I would take the risk on him in the top 10. Pick number 7 now, or not pick number 7, but number 7 overall on my board, Johnny Davis, sophomore guard out of Wisconsin. Like I talked about at the start of the video, when you see a sophomore this high, usually it indicates massive strides and massive improvement, and Johnny Davis has. He is a tremendous guard for the Wisconsin Badgers, does a lot of his shot creation in the mid-range area.
Absolutely ridiculous, stunning how good those two are, yet never playing together. There's a nice...
Can also get downhill, and I think he's going to be a physical defender. For me, Johnny Davis is fairly reminiscent of Dillon Brooks of the Memphis Grizzlies, but I think there's more creation skills and a little bit better ball handling capabilities, and I think he's going to take smarter shots in the NBA than Dillon Brooks does. Dillon Brooks is the ultimate heat check guy, where he's going to take a contested 19-footer because he's feeling himself. Johnny Davis, I think, is going to create a little bit more space for himself and just be a little bit better, but I think he's going to play with some of that same defensive physicality that we see from Dillon Brooks. He's going to be a really good player in the NBA. I'm not exactly sure where he's going to go in the NBA draft yet. With his recent performances against Purdue and Houston, perhaps he ends up going in the top 10. I do think that is a realistic possibility now, where he's showing out for big games against ranked opponents, and Wisconsin's needed him to. They've really moved up this year in the AP Top 25, and Johnny Davis is the key reason why. Number 6 here now, I've got Jalen Duren, the freshman center for the Memphis program, playing for Penny Hardaway.
Memphis within one. McKnight, great penetration and pass, but that was altered.
Jalen Duren plays with really good athleticism. He offers really good size, shot blocking skills, and he's going to play with heart. He is not someone you have to worry about if he's going to bring it or not on a night-to-night basis. He will bring it. He is all about trying to win, and I really love watching him because of that. He's a beast athletically. He's going to throw down a ton of dunks in his NBA career. And one other thing that I think is underrated about Jalen Duren up to this point is his playmaking capabilities. He is really, really good at passing the basketball, actually. When he's going downhill, he's a solid decision maker, and I think there's a lot to work with there. You get him into an NBA system, NBA development. That's one of those things where they're going to spend some time with him, really trying to hone in on some of those passing skills and help him become an even better decision maker to really help the betterment of the team. You put him with a really good shooting guard, someone who can really shoot the basketball well, put them in the pick and roll, hopefully try and draw switches, get the ball to Jalen Duren. They're going to force help, and then he hits a corner shooter. I can see them generating a ton of baskets that way in the NBA because of Jalen Duren's skill set. I love what he's going to bring to the NBA, and 6 almost feels low for him. 5 here, I've got Bennedict Mathurin, sophomore wing from Arizona.
Dave, do you remember this as well? Oh,
Mathurin wrapping it.
Bennedict Mathurin is a player I am falling in love with throughout this draft process. You look at Bennedict Mathurin as arguably the ultimate 3-and-D wing. Does almost all of his work for Arizona off the basketball, which is really attractive to me because he's been productive, averaging a ton of points a game, shooting the ball very well efficiently. He's going to be a solid defender. I think right now he's a little bit more of a gap defender than a stopper. I think that I would love to see a little bit more from him in terms of on-ball defense this year for Arizona. But he's also very athletic. Some of the dunks he's thrown down this year are mind-boggling. I really love what I've seen from him. I really compare him to Mikal Bridges a lot, especially offensively. Also, when you look at him, the elevation he gets on his jump shot reminds me of Tim Hardaway Jr., who's probably a little bit better of a comp in terms of physicals, in terms of size, length, and then also that jump shot like I talked about. But Bennedict Mathurin, he's going to be an attractive player in the NBA for a ton of teams. I think he's going to be someone who spends a lot of his career bouncing around because every single team in the league is going to want him. I am very, very interested to see where he goes on draft night. I think he's a lock to be a top 7 pick. And for me, I would consider him 5th overall really, really hard. I think AJ Griffin's going to make some noise, though, try and get in there. Maybe a guy like Johnny Davis, depending on what team's picking 5th overall. But Bennedict Mathurin, for me, he would be the 5th overall pick in a heartbeat for me at this point in the season. The top 4. Now, I want to, again, put a little disclaimer here. The top 4 is insanely good. This is arguably the best draft class I have evaluated in my time watching college basketball, in my time evaluating for the NBA draft. I think this is arguably the best class yet because of how good the top 4 is. So for the top 4, I have 1A, 1B, 1C, and 1D. I do have them labeled 4 through 1 as well. But for me, the 1D player is going to be Chet Holmgren out of Gonzaga. He's a freshman. This is hard for me to do because I thought he was going to be the 1st overall pick coming in. He's a 7-footer who can handle the basketball, can switch out into space, can protect the rim, and can shoot the basketball. That's a crazy skill set. And yet I have him 4th in the class right now because of how good.
But defensively, he has been the man. Look at that move!
This class is. The one thing that he doesn't do as well as the top 3 guys for me is score the basketball. I also think he struggles a little bit playing against strength and physicality. He has a bad habit right now of wrapping his offhand around offensive players when they're posting him up. He's going to pick up a ton of fouls like that. And I think right now you have to play him as a 4-man in the NBA early, kind of what we're seeing from Evan Mobley with the Cleveland Cavaliers. You probably have to play a physical rebounding center next to Chet Holmgren, which does mitigate some of the strengths he provides, because you'd love for your 5-man to be able to stretch out and shoot. You'd love for your 5-man to be able to handle the ball like he does. But I think defensively right now, even though he's a great rim protector in terms of getting shot blocks, I think that he's going to struggle a little bit being an actual anchor to a defense early on. So I think that they have to have somebody next to him for at least the first couple of years of his career while he's putting on some muscle. But I think he's an attractive player still nonetheless. For NBA scouts, NBA GMs, he's going to come in, he's going to work hard, and he does a lot of stuff that you have to love watching him play. Very well-rounded player, unicorn type player. Very possible he still goes 1st overall if a team really falls in love with that skill set. Number 3 here, I've got Paolo Banchero out of Duke. This might be surprising to people, but I have him 3rd for a few different reasons. Defensively, I don't think he's as good as advertised. I think his strength, he's got an NBA-ready body. He's physical. But I think defensively, he's not necessarily going to ever be a really good defender. Additionally, for Paolo Banchero, when I look at him, the news that he loses 7 pounds a game is a little concerning to me. Maybe that is something that NBA teams, NBA team doctors are going to flag and say, ooh, I don't know, especially when there's 3 other really good players at the top. Do we want to risk it on Paolo Banchero here with that health condition? That's a little concerning to me. He's a phenomenal player, though. Don't get it twisted here. Most years, this guy's the surefire number 1 pick. He's got a great mid-range game.
7'3" wingspan himself. Banchero between the legs, behind the back, and
really, really good with the basketball in his hands, creating space. The one thing that I think he's not great at offensively is I don't think he's quick enough to beat really good defenders off the dribble, but he's got a good enough skill set where he shoots the ball over them anyway. At 6'10", NBA ready body, 245 pounds, he's going to be hard to deal with for a defensive player. Paolo Banchero, he's going to come in, he's going to average 20 plus points a game. He's a good player. I just have some concerns about the medicals, and I've also got some concerns about what he is going to be defensively and that quickness like I talked about. But again, if you get this kid 3rd overall, wow. Moving into number 2 here, this kid's a flash. Jaden Ivey, sophomore guard out of Purdue. I am in love with Jaden Ivey as a basketball prospect. He flashes everything that Ja Morant did, and I was the only one in the world who thought Ja Morant was going to be better than Zion Williamson when he came out of his class. I said to a whole bunch of my friends, I got screenshots of it and everything, that I thought Ja Morant is going to be the best player from that class. And sure enough, at this point, I think it's proved that he has been. He's been better than Zion Williamson. And Jaden Ivey shows so much of the same characteristics and traits. This kid can fly both laterally and vertically.
Now Amori has it taken away. Ivey uncontested. Whoa! Well, that was.
He is extremely quick, fast, which are 2 of the things you want in a ball handler, but he's explosive vertically. He jumps out of the gym. He's going to be able to get chased down blocks like what we see from Ja Morant. I'm not sure if he's going to pull off the one that Ja Morant pulled off the other night where he absolutely skied, but Jaden Ivey, he's pretty close to that. He can jump out of the gym, and he's got a lot of traits that are very, very intriguing for an NBA team. He's shown really good flashes as a playmaker, and I think the one thing that's really stood out in his improvement from his freshman to his sophomore season is how well he's shooting the basketball this year. Even Jaden Ivey's jump shot looks pretty similar to Ja Morant, but he's hitting with more consistency from 3 than he ever has in his career. And if that continues, very possible he's the 1st overall pick. For me, the number 1 player on the board, everyone knows it now, Jabari Smith, freshman forward for Auburn. To me, Jabari Smith is an awesome player to watch. 6'10", plays a lot off the ball, is not a ball stopper at all, which I think Paolo Banchero is a little bit more of a ball stopper than what Jabari Smith's going to be at the next level. Jabari Smith is the perfect face of 4. Can stretch it out from deep, has shown a capability of handling the basketball a little bit, and also has a ton of talent in the mid-post area. He's shown a little bit of a mid-range turnaround post jump shot, which I think is going to be a key asset for him to have at the NBA level to get easy jump shots off. I mean, you watch this kid and it's hard to not compare him to Kevin Durant. When you look at his skill set, his size, length, that slender frame, he is going to be really, really good.
Joe Lindsay, the official, know it. Smith, pull up 3, soft.
I think John Collins is a pretty good comparison for him, as someone who does a lot of work off the ball and is going to be very productive in that role. But I think Jabari Smith is going to be a better scorer than John Collins is. You're looking at someone who's going to put up 25 points a game for most of his career. That's my expectation for Jabari Smith. And the one thing that I think really cements him as number 1 on my board right now is his ability to defend on the perimeter. He's not very physical. He struggles with physicality on both ends, but he moves his feet extremely well. He's got a huge wingspan. He's going to be a really good perimeter defender, and I think someone who really can challenge a lot of people because of his length. He's going to get shot blocks on the wing, on the perimeter, which is, crazy in itself. But he's also going to be someone who can run downhill. He's got really good mobility for his size, can stretch out to the 3-point line. And if he gets a little bit stronger, can play through physicality a little bit better, could be one of the best scorers in the NBA pretty quickly. I think Jabari Smith is going to be a great, great player in the NBA. So hopefully you guys did enjoy today's video. If you did, make sure to leave a like, subscribe as well if you're new. Remember, this is version 1. A lot of stuff can change yet. Hopefully you guys enjoy. Thanks again so much for watching, and we'll catch you in the very next Utility Sports video.